What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we will be doing something that we will be doing bi-weekly. It is something that you should check out on FPLGFCT.com. Basically, if you join our Telegram chat, you can ask us any questions you want, and we'll make a video about it every other week. So today I have Gabe, known as @FPLLens on Twitter. He makes weekly matchup threads on Twitter, and he also has a B coaching license in the United States, which is actually very hard to get. And he's been coaching for over 20 years, so his matchup threads, I think they're pretty good. Gabe, say hello to everybody.
What's up, everyone? Nice for you to all see me, I guess.
And we are also here with Sean Biswas, who has been playing the game since 2007. And rather than being called an FPL veteran, a moniker that has a sense of ability associated with it, he prefers to be called an FPL tragic. He is hopelessly in love with the game, and he's had a couple of 100K plus overalls to go with a couple of top 250 overalls, which are very good. And altogether, he has had 6 top 10K overall ranks. He is at BaconBoyFPL on Twitter and at the Telegram, Global FPL Chat, and Fizo. So, Sham, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
All right, I thought I'd give him a proper introduction this time. Last time, we sort of got to know them by just getting to hear their teams, which was nice. But today, let's get into the questions. And again, I recommend checking out www.fplgfct.com. So, the first question comes from Alden Morris, and it is, does balance in our teams really matter? His example is compulsory having at least 1 premium defender, 1 premium striker, and 2 premium midfielders. I'll start with Sham. What do you think about this?
Not for me. As in, to me, the way I understand this, the purpose of the game is to get the most points overall. Thus, comments like forward line is weak, defense is weak, etc., to me, they do not matter much. Is the overall team structure in a manner to get most points? That pretty much is the criteria for me. I have played with teams. I had seen people play teams with very heavy defense and very lean midfields, or very lean, or maybe just having 1 striker at 5.5. And those were all good teams that got a lot of points, got into the top 10,000, got into the top 1,000, etc. So no, not for me.
In general, I agree with that. I think that it sort of depends on the season as well. Different positions may be stronger in different seasons. So, yeah, let's move on to question 2. It's about Southampton. What are your?
Can I just add one thing to that
yes,
one? I think just on your thought, Chase. I think this season is different because of the COVID pandemic and the uncertainty and the little rest time. I think it's more valuable this season to have the ability for your team to be flexible. I'm not saying. Of course, what Sham said is absolutely paramount, and go for the points. Always go for the points. But if you're trying to make a decision or splitting hairs, go for flexibility. I think it'll serve you well in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case for this season. So number 2 is about Southampton. What are your thoughts on the Southampton's defense starting out with Højbjerg in the team this season? Gabe, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think it's impossible to predict what the loss of Højbjerg is going to do to this team. And Southampton is actually a team I just recently went over in kind of my matchups research to begin the season. A couple things on Southampton. They seem to have had a transformation since game week 10 of last season, which is the 9-0 loss against Leicester. But when I looked into it, really the transformation was post restart. So we have a very small sample size regarding their transformation as far as the defense goes. For one, I believe it. I believe in what they're doing. The changes look systemic to me. They don't look like a blip on the radar. So I'm actually on double Southampton defense myself. Now the questions for me with Southampton are offensively, because there's a lot of chatter. There's a surgence of Che Adams. We saw post restart that Che Adams, started to get more attention and started to produce more. And I don't think Southampton can sustain an 8.5 million forward and a 6.0 million forward. So I think one of those two is overpriced. Which one? I can't really say. I would shy away from the more expensive one because it's the bigger risk, but that's the one that's actually proven it. So there's an argument to make for that as well. What do you think, Sean? Any thoughts on Southampton?
Yeah, That's actually a lovely point. That I neither do I think that Southampton would really be able to sustain two forwards, right? And very well said. I kind of agree completely to you with you. The only other point that I'd like to say is something new that is kind of in the windmills, and that's Mishi Batshuayi. Mishi Batshuayi, I believe, is moving to Crystal Palace as their main forward, and he's at 6 million. In that case, it becomes a critical price point, and that kind of, to me, that kind of makes Shea Adams a lesser important commodity. But in principle, what you have talked about in terms of Southampton's defense as well as Southampton's offense, I'm completely in agreement. How about you, Chase?
Well, I think that I'm not sure about Hoiberg making like a huge difference, but I agree with Gabe in general that I sort of believe in them, what they're doing as a restructuring as a team. But in general, I think y'all covered the basic points of it. I've personally went with Shea Adams, but I have McCarthy as well. I'm not a huge fan of their 4.5 defenders. I am worried about some potential rotation with Kyle Walker-Peters, but they're not bad options. I think it's solid. I think they're a middle of the road option. I'm not really convinced they're going to be the best options like long term, but with some good fixtures, hey, I'm not against having them in my team. So
here are the stats, defensive stats. So game weeks 1 through 10 for Southampton. They really struggled. Remember they lost to Burnley 3-0. So they had, let's see, they were conceding 2.8 big chances per game, and the XG of 2.4 per game. That dropped. Let's see. That dropped after game week 10, but then after restart, they were conceding 1.8 big chances per game and XG of 1.29 per game.
Wow.
So that's post restart. It's a huge difference. But even before that, they were steadily improving, and then after restart is when you really saw them come out with that. So those are the numbers.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's good. And they got the new defender as well. Heard good things about him, Salisu or something. Yeah, so interesting dynamics.
Yeah, I think, again, like I said, I believe in Southampton's regroup. I'm not sure how quick it'll take effect, but I think in general, you can sort of trust their defense for their price. So moving on to the third question. Again, this is all from Alden Morris, these first three questions. And I'll direct this question to Sham since he knows the most about Arsenal. I was planning on taking it, but I should definitely refer to Sham on this one. So how do we think Arteta will set up Arsenal's defense this season with the likes of Saliba and Gabriel? I'm interested in this answer as well.
Sure. So this is kind of how I see this, and this comes from the Arsenal blogs in general, as well as the Arsenal podcasts, etc., which I listen to quite often. Arsenal is a team that I follow in the Premier League. It's pretty much been my Premier League team pretty much forever, right? So this is how I see this. I see the season end with Arsenal playing 4-3-3, with Saliba and Gabriel as our main defenders, or pretty much there or thereabouts, right? That both of them have confirmed their position as the main defenders of our team. And this is kind of the accepted hypothesis of the Arsenal blog universe as well. That seems to also be Arteta's preferred system, even though we cannot play it now because the defense is not that well set. So we are playing the three at the back, right? And, it kind of fits. Saliba as a right footer, Gabriel as a left footer, seems to fit in the overall structure. I do not, however, think that would essentially be the starting defensive lineup. So there would be some rotation, I believe. As in, I do not know what the situation with Rob Holding is. I do believe David Luiz will get some game time. Left centre back is more or less secure with Tierney. Right centre back, well, it's kind of simple. The right centre back, the right wing back or right back. How I see that is if Bellerin is still there with Arsenal, he'll be playing right back. If he isn't, of course, we haven't let go of Ainsley Maitland-Niles. And if Maitland-Niles is there, he'll pretty much be the guy that will be playing right back. Cedric will pretty much be the backup. in all cases. So that pretty much will be the Arsenal defensive structure, in my opinion. Centre backs, I would stay away to start with. In my team, I actually do have both the big backs. I have Tierney as well as Bellerin, but we shall see how that develops.
In general, I think that it sucks because I want to have them in the first two games because of the matchups, but I'm so unsure. Like you said, by the end of the season, okay, I could see that happening. And of course, you know more about this than I do, but I just don't trust the lineup to start. Like, I don't really know for game weeks 1 and 2 what they're going to do. So for me, in terms of starting team, I'm staying away from them. Gabe, anything you'd like to add to this?
No, I think you guys covered it. I'm glad you mentioned Bellerin. I was wondering about Bellerin, Sham. And I have Tierney in my side right now. There's going to be value there somewhere. I think Chase, your approach makes a lot of sense to just kind of see where the value is going to come up. But those two first fixtures are so juicy that if you want to risk it as well, that also makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, Tierney, I mean, 5.5, he'll start, but if he's at left center back, I'm not sure if he gets the same like attacking returns. So that's my only issue with him. But
What is that? Is that a possibility for Tierney to be at left center back?
Sean?
It is, yeah. They did play that structure against Chelsea in the FA Cup final. So I see that as a possibility. Yeah, see, Maitland-Niles played at the right at the left wing back. Yeah. So and the structure, how they were positioning themselves as the game was moving forward, was that Bellerin would be right. So they were changing structure from 5 at the back to 4 at the back as well, where Maitland-Niles would be the left wing back, but he would be falling in as a auxiliary inverted wing back, where he'd be also covering into the midfield, and Tierney would be pretty much the left back, would be moving forward. You remember how the first Arsenal goal was got as well, right? Mm-hmm. It came from a long Tierney pass to Aubameyang, where he kind of isolated Azpilicueta, right? So I see that as a possibility. He's both a good crosser as well as a good long passer. So it's a good skill set. It's a good. So Tierney is pretty well rounded as a defender. So he can do the David Luiz style long passing, and he can also do the. He can also play the conventional wing back, so as to say. However, the concern is that the people that Arsenal is playing, the teams that Arsenal is playing in the first two matches will both be defending deep. So what about the long passes that Tierney would float? As in, like, if they're defending deep, the long passes not work so well, right? If a team is pushing up like Chelsea did, the long passes there's a better chance of the long passes actually resulting in assists. So a couple of different things to consider. But anyway, look, for me, I'm thinking of Tierney as a long-term step. Bellerin not so much, but Tierney certainly. So a little different for me. But I take Chase's point, I take your point as well. So that's pretty much where. Right?
All right, so moving on to the next question. This one's about Manchester United. This question comes from Rohan Sunil. I probably pronounced that terribly, but he asks, what is your order of preference of United attackers? Which would you prefer, Bruno plus 6 million forward or Greenwood plus Martial? So starting off with the first part of this, for me, this is a pretty easy one. I think it's Martial number 1, Bruno number 2, Greenwood number 3, and Rashford's last. And there's sort of a drop-off between the top 2 and the bottom 2 for me. Yes, Greenwood's cheaper, but Bruno and Martial's production ever since they joined up at Manchester United was just simply amazing. And the high upside there is that they just continue to play like that. And if they continue to do so, it's going to be amazing. So for me, until I see something different, they're the top 2. And Rashford is definitely last because, I see a lot of other people getting criticism. Like people talk about Son and Sterling potentially getting caught 2 out wide and not getting goal-scoring chances. For me, that was a huge impact on Rashford a lot of times. A lot of games I would watch him. So at 9.5, as a midfielder, he could be okay. I'm not saying he's a terrible option, but I think the other 3 are much better than him personally. Sham, anything you'd like to add to this?
Not me. I'm good. I'm completely in agreement. Gabriel, you tell me.
I think I kind of see it very, very differently. I think Greenwood is by far the last considerable option here. And I think it's close between Rashford and Bruno for the top option, which is funny because he's last for you. So I reached out to a couple of Manchester United fans, and I went to their forums as well, and a lot of them expect a formation change at Manchester United because of the introduction of Donny van de Beek. He's to put Donny van de Beek side by side with Paul Pogba and Bruno in front of them, and have one player holding Matic or McTominay or whoever's in form. That would change the system to a 4-4-2, and Greenwood would be the one that goes to the bench in that system, and then Rashford would be out of position up top with Martial.
Right. Hey, I hadn't thought of that. They can play a diamond, right?
Yes, I think that's
Oh,
their best setup. Manchester United fans think that that's their best setup, and it seems like their purchases kind of would favor that system, and that favors Rashford as well. As far as his production, I think Rashford trailed off last season because he started missing. He just missed big chances, kept missing. He was just not in good form, and I think he will recover form. We don't know when, right? We don't know how long that'll take. So there's a risk in going with Rashford. The safest pick is probably Bruno Fernandes, and Martial, I think, is a very safe pick as well. But I love that Rashford's a midfield classified as a midfielder. I think he will be out of position, and I'm interested in the savings. So I'm leaning Rashford among three.
Well, I will say if that happens, obviously Rashford would be a great option, and that sort of ties into the next question. Bruno plus a 6 million forward / mid, or Greenwood plus Martial. I think to be safe, you take the Bruno option to start with. But for me, I'm going to try to find a way to get Bruno and Martial. So I would maybe even consider like Martial and then just going down instead of Greenwood, just getting like St. Maximin or Fraser or whatever it might be. Anything y'all would like to add to this?
I think that's the right call, especially with the concerns I just brought up about Greenwood. But even if I was in my matchups research here, when even if they are going to stay with the kind of three up top and then Greenwood playing on the right, Manchester United do not create many chances from the right side. So there's also the fewer chances created, so there are fewer opportunities. I think you can do better instead of Greenwood. You could do better probably with a Foden or something like that. I'm looking at here. Yes, 26.6% of chances were created from the right compared to 35.8 from the left and 37.6 from the middle. So Manchester United favor really Rashford's side and the middle. So Greenwood is sometimes he just gets left out of the flow of the game.
I'll
No.
tell you something. This is all a great learning for me, because the moment I realized that Manchester United is not playing the first game week, I had kind of blanked myself from Manchester United. So this is a good learning for me. Thank you, guys. Continue this conversation. I'll join you in the next question.
Sham's adding questions to our document there. It's like, oh, this is
Sure.
So he also asks, is Martial still worth a spot as a forward? I think it's a yes. And can Greenwood continue his form, although his stats aren't great? I mean, I think I would expect a drop-off, but it's possible. But with rotation risk, he's not a starting option for me. I assume Gabe agrees, but... Okay, he agrees.
you know what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like wait and see, because who knows if Greenwood continues his form. I mean, if he does, he'll be the next great English striker. But I wouldn't start with him personally. And obviously we're talking about the start of the season right now. I would play a little more safe. So this is a general question. According to you, which is the best formation to play? I'm thinking of a 4-4-2 with Trent and Robbo at the back, but a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 looks more attacking. So Sean, what would you think about this?
So I know a little bit of this comes from my, fervent support of the five at the defense, etc. All of those things. I'll tell you something. This is probably the question that's closest to my heart. In my opinion, there is no best formation. It's about how you play whichever formation you choose. Eventually, there is a formation that you, as an individual, play best. In my opinion, it's all about finding that formation and playing that formation well. And there is no real attacking or defensive formation. The way I look at it, it's just a formation that gets you more points, and another which does not. right? You play it well, you play it worse. It's critically important to find out what works for you and play that specific formation well. That's all. Now, I personally play best with a heavy defense, and pretty much all my teams from the last 10, 12 years of being a FPL tragic, they eventually tend to move into the four defenders, of whom three are highly prized, that kind of a formation. But I do not think that that is the optimal formation or anything like that. That also depends upon what kind of a season you have. As in, say, for example, if you have um, two two forwards who are like really cheap and who have done really really well. If you have two Danny Ingses in a season, in that case, of course, most of your money will be pushed to the back or to the midfield and things like that, right? So it depends upon the season. It depends upon the kind of formation that you're most comfortable playing and which you know the best to play as well. But I do not believe that there is a best formation. And there is no attacking defensive formation, guys. It's like formations that get you the best points are the best formations pretty much for you. So okay, that's my rant about formations.
I agree
Okay.
completely.
I was thinking, kind of woke up super early this morning, and I was thinking about formations, sadly, and I was looking at my team, and I realized then I began to look at formations in a little bit of a different way. So I'm looking at my current draft right now, and I look at my formation. I'm in a 3-3-2, and that's not enough players, right? the that's my formation. That's my core, the core of my team that will probably play every single week. And then the rest are the rotation players. Sometimes it'll be a 3-4-3. Sometimes it'll be a 3-5-2. Maybe I can't play a 3-5-2 because I have a non-playing mid, or I can't play three up top because I have a non-playing forward, or something like that. That could limit you, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get less points because that limits you. So just I would recommend viewing your formation as your core, and then around that core, what's going to cycle through, what you can
Right.
cycle through, and how you can
Right.
adapt that.
Right, right, absolutely, and I agree with that. The formation that you're talking about is a 4-4-2, 3-5-2 hybrid, and that's absolutely a fair formation to have. It's like
Or three four
whatever
three,
you're,
if
or
Ryan
a three
Brewster
four
gets
three. Yeah,
signed.
yeah.
If Ryan Brewster gets
There we are. Or a 3-4-3 form,
yeah,
or a 3-4-3 hybrid. As in, why not? That's again another legitimate way to play the game. It's just about playing it well,
yeah.
right? At least that's my take.
All right, so moving on to his next question. Well, actually, this one comes from Rajat. It's, what are your two favorite assets in FPL from each of the promoted sides? West Brom, Leeds, and Fulham. Gabe, I'll let you start this time.
Oh, me, two from
At least
each.
pick,
Yeah,
at
I
least
have
pick one team. At least
yeah.
pick one team.
You don't
All
have to
right.
give an in-depth analysis, but because I know they're newly promoted,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of having any. I mean, I'll start with the one that I have that's been in my side for quite a little while here, is Anguissa from Fulham, 4-5, kind of like an 8. He plays like a box to box workhorse kind of central midfielder. He's a bench player that will hopefully play. I don't think I really know yet who the nailed 4-5 is, that will get us 2-3 points every week. But right now I'm on Anguissa, but I don't know. Other than Anguissa, I think Mitrovic offers the most potential. I'm not buying myself, but there's good reason to buy in Mitrovic. The talisman theory, I think, would be primary among those reasons. So I'll say those two from Fulham. Um, let's see. West Brom. I don't know. I'll let you guys take the other two, because I'm not considering really any promoted players at this point.
okay, Sean.
Chase, you want to go? Chase, you want to go?
Oh yeah, I'll
We're
go.
all throwing this question back at each other.
All right, West
Okay.
Brom. I was gonna say none, but if you wanted to throw Johnstone in there, the goalkeeper, go ahead. Other than that, it's a wait and see for me. I'm not saying they'll do bad. Maybe sign one of their new signings for high upside and just hope. But for me, it's none. Leeds, Ailing, and Rodrigo. Just
Yeah.
and Fulham the one where I'd be most interested in, I think, is Anguissa and Mitrovic. Mitrovic, in my opinion, is, in terms of starting off with one, because he's EPL proven, he's the one I'd go with out of all the newly promoted sides. Other than that, I maybe would get a Leeds defender if it works well with the rotation. And West Brom, I would probably just wait and see. So, Sham, anything else you'd like to add?
No, in fact, the two players that you spoke about from Leeds. Now, Leeds is kind of, sort of my second team. All right, as in ages back when I just started watching the Premier League, Leeds was a team that I was quite fond of, and these were the Viduka days.
Viduka
days,
yeah,
the Viduka days and the Harry Kewell days, etc. Good fun. So, so I have a little bit of a soft corner for them, and I watched them very closely last season. Again, Eiling is somebody that I am quite a fan of, right? And he used to be a former Arsenal trainee, and so I have a little bit of a soft corner for that reason. And he's an overlapping fullback. Bielsa likes to play that structure with the overlapping fullback, so there is a possibility there. Rodrigo is somebody I'd really like to see doing good, because last season when Leeds came up as the champions, right? Just a quick information point over there that the forward, the center forward that they had, Patrick Bamford, he scored 16 goals and I believe 17 goals maybe, and he had about a 35 xg of 35 or 36 goals, right? So he misses as many goals as he scores, is what it seems like. Rodrigo is supposed to be better. He's supposed to be the center forward for the Spain national team. So I'm hoping that at some point in season he'll be a good pick, and at that point of time he can be picked. And this is only because I'm a Leeds fan. But again, I'm not picking anybody to start with. I do have, again, the 4.5, the Fulham 4.5 bench players, because I think they'll play. I have Harrison Reed as well, for the matter. But that's bench. So okay, that's pretty much what I have to say.
All right. Well, we've got a lot of questions left, so I think from now on, we sort of gave the first ones a premium treatment. From now on, we'll just take turns answering the questions, and if you can say agree or disagree, but let's get through them. Let's make sure we get everybody's questions answered. So, is it risky to have double defenders from good defensive units? For me, I say.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I say no, as long as you can deal with the rotation factor. If you want to add something, Sham, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. More risky, sure, but more rewarding as well, right?
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
David Moyes days at Everton, I used to play. I remember guys that used to play with three Everton defenders: Lescott, Jagielka, Baines, and they all did very well because they were a really good defensive team. Wouldn't concede much. Lescott was attacking, Baines was attacking. It was great. So, but then it's also a style thing, right? You have to have the mental fortitude to accept that two of your defenders will break a clean sheet on the 93rd minute goal by John Egan, right? So that equanimity is probably the biggest prerequisite of playing the multiple defender.
While you have John Egan on the bench.
While you have John Egan on the bench.
That's how that happens.
Right.
But
right. Yeah. But that's I agree.
Yeah, I think too many people look at their choices not individually, okay, who has the most chance of getting me points? They're like, oh, well, I already had this one defender, so let me get another one. It's not really work. Try to get the players that get you the most points. If you end up with 3 Wolves defenders, that's perfectly okay. That's what you think is going to happen.
Agreed.
So
Deadshot asks, what are your thoughts on playing time for Adams? And I will let Gabe take this one.
I think Adams will get his time. What he does with it is a different question. If Ings is eating up, if Ings is feasting, then Adams will be starving. And if Adams is feasting, Ings will be starving. And if they're sharing, then they'll both just kind of be getting by, and Ings is too expensive. But I expect him to get playing time. We'll see what he can do with that.
Mm-hmm.
In general, I agree. I think that he'll start most games, though, to start off with. So this one's for Sham. With ongoing transfer and injury rumors, how safe do we see Vinagre, Justin, and Mitchell as long-term options?
Long-term, no. Short-term, maybe. Vinagre. So Justin will probably play. That's because Leicester has sold the wing back and has sold the left wing back and has the right wing back injured, right? So Justin will probably start. Is he a good long-term option? I don't think so, because after when he started playing in the second half, their performance really they were not really good. So long-term, no. Short-term, maybe. Some people are taking that risk. I personally would not. As for Mitchell, no, I don't think so. And as for Vinagre, well, they have. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Wolves have bought two left wing backs, right? So
No, no.
only one.
Marcel is a 31-year-old, more like left center back than a wing back.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. And they've and the other guy is the. They've got another guy as well, right? So, well, I do not. I am not brimming with confidence for either of them. I know that Vinagre was the flavor of the season at some point in time, but again, eventually it's only a short-term pick, right? Because eventually Johnny will be back about a couple of months into the season as well. So, and he's definitely first choice.
I will add a word of caution about Justin. Castagna, the Leicester's new signing, he can play that right side, and Thomas has done a decent job on the left. So Justin might not start, right? Isn't it Thomas that played left, or did Thomas play right?
Thomas played left, I think.
Left,
Thomas
right?
played left. Thomas played left, yeah.
So Justin, I'm not sure Justin will start at all.
Good point.
Castagna is a good player from Atalanta.
Yeah, of course. He plays for the first team for Belgium's first team as well, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this question comes from Sangeet Khanna, and he asks, is it practical to bring in Trent and Robbo and go without Salah and Mane for the first few games? Salah and Mane haven't been exciting for me, and I think the defensive double-up will get more points. For me, I think that, is it practical? Yes. I wouldn't advise it personally, but it's sort of a close call to where I can't, say don't do it. But I don't see Liverpool as having defensive stability, necessarily in preseason. So saying Salah and Mane haven't been exciting for me, I assume he means in preseason. And I think the same thing can be applied to Trent as well. I mean, he hasn't really even been fit. So in terms of question marks over preseason, I think that's sort of all over Liverpool's team. But they have such a good game week 1 matchup. I'm going to start with Salah and one of their defenders and see what happens from there. If they look poor against Leeds, then for their next 2 fixtures, that Salah money could be used for Bruno or something like that. And then we'll see from there if you want to get him back for the good fixtures. But I think it's practical to do that, but I would have at least one Liverpool attacker besides Firmino, obviously. So I'd have Salah or Mane going into game week 1 and just see what happens. Because as Liverpool, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt to start off with. But I would have Salah or Mane going into game week 1. Sham, you agree?
So do I. But then I have, the structure that I play, and I have Trent, Robbo, and Salah. So that's a little bit of an overkill, but that's pretty much how I play it. And you know what? The way I think is that there are many ways to skin the cat, right? Your formation is absolutely valid, and I believe so is mine. So yeah, why not? As in, you have a formation, you're convinced that it is going to succeed, go for it.
That's what a terrible saying that is. There are many ways to skin the cat. It's just horrendous.
No, the story is that I know. The story is that it's not about the cat as in the cat which meows. It's the cat which swims in the water. That's the catfish, right? So thank God for small mercies.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know that. So
I didn't know people skinned catfish.
There we are.
Catfish FPL. Anyway, so Sarthak asks, with Tottenham set to play 10 games in approximately 30 days, do you think it's viable to bring in a Spurs asset or maybe even a double or triple up? Although they play weaker opposition in Europa, but he's saying that he thinks Jose won't risk it by playing an entire B team or even half the first team. So what do we think about worrying about rotation with the Europa League and Tottenham? We'll let Gabe take this one.
So Jose doesn't rotate in games that matter. He will not rotate in games that matter, and early Europa League games don't matter that much. I think that's where he'll rotate. So I wouldn't be too worried. I definitely be concerned. I have an eye open to it, But in the league, initially, their fixtures are so good. Tottenham's fixtures are so good. Jose knows that as the season progresses, his fixtures obviously will get tougher because it all balances out. And they're going to get tougher right as the Europa League is getting more and more important and the cups are getting more and more important. I think that's when you should worry about Spurs assets, is when all of the games start to matter a little bit more. Right now, the games that matter most are the Premier League games, and that's where he'll play his strongest lineup. And that strongest lineup is not going to change very much. So I wouldn't worry about rotation too much from Spurs. There are plenty of other things to worry about with that team.
I agree. So
I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
yeah,
Close and move on.
yeah, me too. They're like, if you're gonna worry about that, you might as well worry about your playing getting in a car crash. Like it's like there you can worry about all these little things in FPL, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's enough of a percentage chance of happening to really take your time. So I'm sorry if we didn't get to your questions. We'll take one more. This one's from Vishesh Mehra, and I will let Sham handle this one because. Wait, actually, which one of you had Foden in your last draft? Was that you, Gabe?
Yeah, Foden has not left any of my drafts from except for a small period of time when I thought Messi was coming. So that was the spot. And then when Messi stayed, so Foden's right back in. He's nailed.
Okay, so
I like Foden too. I'll have him at some point.
This question's for both of you, then. It's not for me. Thoughts on Foden potentially getting more minutes this season? Is he more nailed on than the likes of Bernardo Silva and Ferran Torres?
100% more nailed than those two. So Ferran Torres. So Foden he's been groomed to be David Silva's heir. So he's going to be playing in central midfield, kind of linking the play, but also pushing that line the way David Silva does. Foden likes that shot from medium distance, just inside the box, the way that David Silva does. Ferran Torres is I think he was brought in to push Bernardo Silva and Mahrez on that right wing. They're not getting. I think Pep wants more from that position, and that's what Torres is coming to do. I think Foden will start in almost every easy matchup, and I think in the tough matchups it'll be a kind of a stronger midfield with Gundo in there, or Gundo, Rodri, and these players, and then Foden will be on the bench. So I would say, let's say Foden starts 2 out of 3, and those 2 are easy matchups. At 6'5", I think he's a brilliant pick. One of my favorite picks this season. And then you can bench him in tough matchups, assuming that, one, it's a tough matchup, so if he does play, it's no big deal to bench him. He's 6'5", so again, it's no big deal to bench him. So yeah, I think it's all upside with Foden.
Sham?
I agree. So you know what? David Silva used to get about 150 points a season at 7.5. Foden, in my expectation, will be getting about the same or slightly higher, and that is far too good. Something to let go of at 6.5.
You're over 20. You're like 23 points per million, and you're looking at that 20 to 25 is that sweet spot of points per million that you want to harness.
Exactly. And you know what? I was talking about 150 points as pretty much the expected points for Maupai in the last podcast, right? So I believe that Foden will be walking through the 150 pretty comfortably. And that's a brilliant pick, no questions. I do not have him yet, but I certainly see myself getting him pretty quickly once the season progresses. And that is strictly because of my formula that if somebody is not playing the first game week, I'll not be having him. But I certainly will be having him pretty soon.
All right, and I just realized that I basically had my cursor beside y'all's faces the whole time while you were talking, so that's always good.
You picked my nose.
Yeah. But anyway, before we end the video, Sham, can you tell them a little bit about our bi-weekly newsletter and report that we are planning?
Do you want me to share my screen?
Yes,
that is all
sure,
right?
Of course.
Okay. Let me give that a shot. Tell me if you can see my screen.
We can now. It is up on the screen.
Okay, so what we'll do every week is every fortnight is to send a version of this report that you can see, and that will have four parts to it. Part one would be a strategic view of the research that we had done. Strategic view is in terms of how the season has developed so far. This might not come in every fortnight, it might come every month. But this is in terms of how the season has developed so far, what are assumptions on how the season might play out going forward, what are the roadblocks, what are the traps that one should be careful about, and how the season is basically shaping up, right? Then there would be the tactical view, which would be in terms of what would be the, and at least how we see it, what would be the template team, what is the best template team that you can manage, how is the template changing season on fortnight on fortnight, which are the players that are about to break the template, which are just outside the template, which are about to break into the template, and other people that are about to fall out, whose ownership is reducing, and also about other players who, even though they are not template, they are interesting quick risers in terms of ownership. The third piece would be about the operational view, which is simply about picking the right player, right? And this will be statistics based. Which goalkeeper? What are the important stats that we are looking at about the goalkeeper? Great number of saves, great fixtures going forward. About defenders, who are the best defenders and who are the best midfielders, forwards moving forward. Also, there will be something that we'll have in terms of our parts. There are about 6 or 7 of us, so we'll be talking about one or two of our players that we feel, as in our muscle memory suggests that there is a possibility that this player would be doing really well. We'll be giving a little bit of a reason around it as well, but that is pretty much that. So this is something that we'll be sharing with the members of our Telegram group every fortnight.
All right, and again, all that's free, so definitely check the link in the description, fplgfct.com. I will also have their Twitter links in the description, as well as mine. So yeah, thanks guys for joining me today. It was good to see your faces again. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. All right.
Thanks, chatting.
Thanks, Chase.
Bye,
Yeah,
everyone.
great talking with you,
Bye.
Gabe. Bye-bye. Bye, guys. Have a good day.